Hello everyone, I hope you're well and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Hannah Tay. Today I have a book review. I'm going to review Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. I actually run my book club now over on my Patreon page and I let my patrons vote for what book they want to read, and they voted to read this book in March, so we read it. So the beginning of this video I'm just going to give you a synopsis, spoiler free, and then give you my thoughts, and then I'm going to go into it and give you my thoughts on the characters, more of a plot breakdown. So the spoiler-free version of this is about a girl called Catherine Morland, and she lives in a quiet village but she longs for adventure. She wants to be a heroine of a story, she wants excitement. And so her next door neighbours, the Allens, they decide that they're going to take her to Bath for 6 weeks. So she goes to Bath, she has a dance with a man and she falls in love with him, and then she forms a friendship with someone else. And it's about her friendship with this girl but also her love interest within it. She then has to go to a place called Northanger Abbey, which is a big gothic abbey, and she loves gothic novels, so she makes her imagination runs wild. She basically freaks herself out in this abbey about all these different things that could be, and that's the spoiler-free version of this. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was really good. The end for me I felt could have gone on a little bit more. I wanted more of the story, but I really enjoyed it. I loved Catherine, I loved the other characters within it as well, and I thought this was a great book. I have a bit of history with Jane Austen. I've read 2 of her novels. I've read Persuasion, which I liked, and I read Sense and Sensibility, which I liked, but I've never read a Jane Austen and really loved it until Northanger Abbey, and I read this and just absolutely adored it. Like, I understand why people love Jane Austen. I loved the wit within it, the comedy was amazing. I really did enjoy this book. So that's the spoiler-free version of it. Go and read the book for yourself. Now for people who have read the book, here's the spoiler version of it. So I'm going to do a bit of a plot breakdown and my thoughts and feelings on the characters, because there was one character who I actually despised. I actually hated him, and even the mention of his name I was like, ugh, like I hated him that much. So Catherine Morland, she reads a lot of gothic novels and she wants adventure, so the Allens take her to Bath. And then when she's in Bath, they go to somewhere which is called the Pump Rooms, and that's where young people dance together. So when they arrive, the Allens don't know anyone in Bath, so she's got no one to dance with. And then there's this guy called Mr. Tilney who's a bit awkward and odd, and he's about 24 years old, and he takes her dancing in the Pump Rooms, and they have a dance and she starts falling in love with him. He then disappears from the book, so we have no idea where he's going. I thought he'd ghosted her. I was like, oh my god, it's like a classic ghosting. But he disappears and she's really upset because she's like every day going to the Pump Rooms, where is he, and he's not there. And then the Allens meet their old friends. So Miss Allen, one of her old school friends, she just happens to see this woman in the Pump Rooms, and that woman has a daughter called Isabella, and Isabella and Catherine become best friends. And I loved everything to do with their friendship in the beginning, how they, like, when you're young and you make a friend, like everything has to be with them and you have to dress the same and be the same, and just such like a intense friendship. I really loved that element of it. So Catherine's hanging out with Isabella, but she's told her about Tilney. She's like, oh, there's this guy Tilney, but I don't know where he is. And then Isabella and Catherine see their brothers. Now, their brothers are just best friends. So the girls didn't know each other, but their brothers, I think, lived together in Oxford. They're going to Oxford University, or college, whatever it was called then. And their brothers are best friends. So they're like, oh my god, like our brothers are best friends, how odd. And Catherine's brother is called James and Isabella's brother is called John Thorpe. I hated John Thorpe with a passion. I thought he was a snake. I thought he was arrogant. I just despised him from like the first moment we met him. So Isabella, skip it forward a little bit, Isabella and James know each other and they are getting engaged. So that's Catherine's brother is getting engaged to her new best friend Isabella. And this all happens in the 6 weeks in Bath. So Isabella said like, oh, I've known your brother for a long time because he's best friends with my brother and I fell in love with him a long time ago. So Catherine's completely shocked by the situation, which kind of told me like, oh, there's no chemistry. Because Isabella's like, oh, you know, you probably guessed it, that me and your brother are going to be together. And Catherine's like, what? Like, obviously she didn't see any chemistry or didn't see any real connection with them. And so they are going to get engaged. John Thorpe, that's Isabella's brother, really wants to date Catherine. Catherine's not interested whatsoever. You're not interested in dating him? No. And then Mr. Tilney comes back, and Mr. Tilney, she meets Mr. Tilney's dad, brother, sister. I loved Tilney's sister, and she begins dancing with him again. It's kind of like a rekindling of what was before. And then John Thorpe tries to sabotage the whole thing. He tries to sabotage the relationship because he wants to be with Catherine, and then Catherine doesn't really listen, like she just pushes forward with it, and then she goes to Northanger Abbey, and Northanger Abbey is owned by the Tilneys. Now when I was reading this and it got to the bit just before they were going to go to Northanger Abbey, I was kind of like, yeah, there needs a bit of a change. It was getting a bit samey. They were going to the pump rooms, they were having the same conversations, and then Jane Austen knew, like, now it's time for a change. So then she is asked, Catherine, if she will go to Northanger Abbey, their family home, and spend some time with them there. And so she says yeah. So she goes to Northanger Abbey. It's really gothic. She freaks herself out. I loved those elements because they're so me. Like, I love horror films, but I will watch a horror film and then I won't be able to sleep, and I'll have like I've got wardrobes, but they're like built-in wardrobes, and the doors don't close properly, so there's like a crack of it open, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die tonight. Like, I can't deal with it. I freak myself out all the time. And so she was just freaking herself out in Northanger Abbey. She then makes up this whole story that maybe Tilney's dad's a murderer, and then at the end Catherine and Tilney end up together. The end was so bizarre though, because Catherine's sent away because Colonel Tilney, the dad, he doesn't think she has as much money. He's been told she has more money than what she actually has, and he's been lied to by John Thorpe. Who'd have thought it? Oh, did you hear me? Who'd have thought it? Don't. Oh, I'm so cringe. But he's like, oh, get away from my family. And then Tilney is like, no, I love her, and goes and asks her to marry him, and that's kind of it. I felt like the end was really rushed. Also, back to Isabella and James. Just so many characters in Jane Austen, isn't there? Back to Isabella and James. Isabella calls off the engagement to James because she wants to go out with Tilney's brother, is it Captain Tilney? And then that all falls through, so Isabella doesn't end up with Catherine's brother anyway. And Isabella was like really horrible. Like, at the beginning I liked her, but then I felt she was a bit manipulative with things that she would do, like, oh no, I can't go if you're not going, Catherine. And Catherine would be like, oh, I don't want to go to, you know, this, whatever you're doing, I don't want to go to it. And she'd be like, well, you have to, because I can't go. And was just really kind of manipulative towards her, so you could see that coming into it. I thought the end was rushed. I've got to be honest, the end I thought needed more. So Catherine is sent back to her village with nothing, just like, off you go, we don't want you here anymore. Then Tilney comes to visit and says the whole situation, like, my dad thought you had more money because John Thorpe had said you had more money than what you actually had because John Thorpe wanted to marry you. So he was like bigging you up to my dad, but my dad took everything he said like literally. And you don't have as much money as us, and so my dad didn't want you to marry. And then it was like, oh, but because Tilney's sister got married, their dad's fine now. What? Like, I felt like the end was just so rushed. It felt like a draft for the end, but not the full end yet. And I wanted a bit on James, I wanted a bit on Isabella, I even wanted a little bit on John Thorpe as to what became of them, a little bit more. But it just felt really, it was literally a few pages, and it was summarised, the whole end. And I felt like I've gone through this whole thing with the characters. I've gone through like Catherine being like a girl living at home, wanting adventure, and then now she's got a marriage proposal to a man who she loves, and then that's it, it's the end. Like, I wanted a little bit more to it. Does anyone else feel that way when they read it? It just left me feeling a bit like, oh, that's it. I wasn't like satisfied with the end of it, but I don't regret reading it. I still enjoyed reading it. It just felt a bit of a rush at the end to be like, and the end, and everyone's happy, the end. And I didn't like that element on it, if I'm being totally honest. But I did enjoy this book, so that is my in-depth thoughts on this book. I did really enjoy it. I loved Catherine, I loved her love of Gothic literature. I loved how in one chapter Jane Austen just like threw down her thoughts. There's a chapter where Jane Austen is talking about people who are snobby towards novels, who say like, I only read history books, or I only read non-fiction. I wouldn't read like fiction, I wouldn't read novels, that's ridiculous. And she's saying like, you shouldn't be snobby towards people because people should be able to read whatever they want to read. And she just went off, not even as one of the characters, just as herself, Jane Austen. She goes like full rant mode, and she's like, well, you know, you should let people read what they want to read and what makes you think you're better than others. And I was like, what? Like, oh my god. It was like a full rant just from Jane Austen herself about people's prejudice and snobbery towards novels, which I loved. I loved that whole element within it. I've actually done a video on that, which is called Book Snobbery, where I talk about people who are really snobbish about what you read. Like, they say you should only read classics, or they only read non-fiction, and they've got a really snobby element towards them. And I'm like, let people read whatever it is they want to read. It doesn't bother me. Just let them read it. So I did really enjoy this. I thought it was a really quick read as well. Sensibility, I felt like there were too many characters, and even though I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the connection with the sisters, but I didn't enjoy the romance element of it, and it did go on a bit. Whereas with this, I felt that I liked her friendship, but I also liked her romance. I would have liked a little bit more conversation between her and Tilney. If I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like I needed more. This was just too short a book. So to summarise, I really enjoyed this book, but I could have done with a bit more at the end, a little bit more explanation into how it all worked out in the end, because it all kind of fitted into one page and I wanted a little bit more from the end. But I did really enjoy this. If you want to be in the next book club, April's book club, then you can join my Patreon. It's 80p a month, I believe, for UK people, and then you get access to over 400 videos of mine. There are some that I have uploaded and privated because I've cleaned up the channel a little bit, and there's loads of new ones on there. On that book I did like 5 different videos of me reading that book, which are all, as soon as you become a patron, you get access to everything. So then it's kind of like you're reading the book along with me, because at different points of the book I would make a video talking about it and going into my kind of like thoughts and feelings of it. And we haven't chosen April's book club yet. I will be running a poll, because I have a Facebook page that you get access to, but you don't need the Facebook page to be on the Patreon, and I run a poll, so then people vote. I've put a few choices up and then we can vote what we want to read in April. So I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I am going to end the video here. I want to say thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for all my patrons for joining in with the book club. It was really fun to get to like chat one-on-one in like private messenger about what we thought about this book, and I did enjoy this book. I hope you're all having a great day, and I will see you again soon for another video.